shall we be seated? Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to all members of the university community, as well as invited guests and well-wishers. Welcome to this special event, the first in a series of valedictory events in honor of our outgoing Vice Chancellor. And if you are wondering why the Faculty of Science is kickstarting this event, I'm sure that the Dean of Science will answer that question when he gets here. Once again, welcome to this special lecture in honor of our own Professor Olugbenga, the sixth substantive Vice Chancellor of Valedictory University. The lecture is titled Management Has a Few Things to Learn from Science, and the lecture will be delivered by an erudite professor of plant physiology, Dr. Olugbenga. This event also features awards, commendation, and gift presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, let me welcome to the top table here the chairman of this event, Commissioner for Education, Science, and Technology, a one-time, in fact, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of this university, a cerebral and celebrated academic, researcher, and administrator, Professor Ibekele Ajibefu, who is here represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry. Please welcome Dr. Akindele Ito. Please, another round of applause for the chairman of this event, Dr. Akindele Ito. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. I also welcome the man in whose honor this event is being marketed. Please welcome our own Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga. Let me also welcome our Deputy Vice Chancellor. First, I welcome the DDC Administration, Professor Valedictory. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you for coming, sir. I also welcome the DDC Academic, Professor Felix Olusegun. Thank you very much, sir. Also here is the Registrar of our university. Please welcome Dr. Gio Babalola. I also welcome the University Librarian, Dr. Yemisi Olorifemi. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming us. Also here, like I informed you earlier, let me especially recognize and welcome the lecturer, Professor Victor Olugbenga. Thank you, sir. Other officers of the university, deans, directors, professors, heads of departments, particularly in the Faculty of Science, you are all warmly welcome. Let me especially recognize the HOD, first Professor A.O. Fadari, HOD Animal and Environmental Biology. Thank you very much for coming. Professor Olaremu, HOD Chemical Sciences. Thank you for coming. Professor A.C. Tomiwa, HOD Physics. Dr. H.T. Ogurido, Acting Head Earth Sciences. Thank you, sir. Dr. O.T. Oshutokun, Acting Head Microbiology. Dr. S.A. Shodenge, acting head of biochemistry. Dr. A.S. Oke, I hope I got that correct. Acting head mathematics. Thank you, sir, for coming. Dr. A.T. Ajayi, acting head plant science and biotechnology. Thank you very much, sir. I was about to say that. Even the vision himself will say, that's my age. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of our time, because we have a lot on our plate, for the sake of our time, because we have a lot on our plate, all other things in the house, professors and HODs, you are all warmly recognized and you are also warmly welcome. Thank you so much for coming to us. Let me now bring to the table the host who is leading the charge in putting this together, the Dean of Science. Please welcome Professor Olugbenga. The acting head plant science and biotechnology is the HOD of the Vice Chancellor. What do we now call the Dean of Science? The Dean of the Vice Chancellor. Please put our hands together. What's the name for Professor Olugbenga? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Dean of Science to tell us why this gathering, and of course to tell us why the Faculty of Science is starting the valedictory events for Professor Olugbenga today. Please welcome Professor Olugbenga.
Thank you. The chairman of this event, the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, here represented by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Akindele, Sir Vice Chancellor, Sir, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, deans of other faculties, directors, the senior professors here present, heads of departments, the civic scholars, and other senior officers of the university, invited guests, AAU students, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Faculty of Science at the University, it is my profound honor and privilege to welcome you all to this end of tenure celebration in honor of Professor Olugbenga Elisa, the sixth substantive Vice Chancellor of a great university and a proud son of the Faculty of Science. Today, we are not just only celebrating the Vice Chancellor, we are celebrating a father whose mortuary spirit has guided many, a brother whose warmth and camaraderie have united colleagues, a friend whose humility and kindness have endeared him to all, a leader whose visionary qualities have transformed our faculty and university at large, and a mentor whose wisdom and encouragement have shaped the careers of countless academics. Professor Ige embodies all these roles with great dignity and excellence. He is compassionate yet fair. He is humble yet courageous. He is approachable yet authoritative. Yes, it's a rare combination of attributes that define true greatness. Today's event is organized by the Faculty of Science to celebrate the success and achievements of Professor Olugbenga. And as it is often said, heaven rejoices with those who celebrate success. Today, we have come together to rejoice, to honor, and to celebrate a man whose tenure has been marked with vision, inclusiveness, and remarkable achievements that have brought pride to our faculty and distinction to our university. Professor Ige's qualities, which include integrity, humility, resilience, and a collaborative spirit, have created a fertile ground for growth, most especially in our faculty. His leadership allowed the Faculty of Science to flourish in ways that will be remembered for generations. I wish to place on record that during his tenure, more than 15 projects were commissioned across all the 8 departments of the Faculty of Science. And in recent, we still have some projects ready for commissioning. I've also discussed with the Vice Chancellor, so it's most likely the commissioning will come up on July 6. Thank you, sir. So I want all the departments concerned to please get prepared for the commissioning that date. Today, we have come together to rejoice, to honor, I want quickly to just mention some of the projects that were commissioned by the Vice Chancellor. This includes the installation of solar inverter systems, renovation of offices and sub-laboratories, procurement of equipment and laboratory consumables, establishment of a glass-blowing laboratory, and establishment and renovation of the animal house and other projects. This is unprecedented in our history and reflects his character as a leader who brings people together, inspires collective commitment, and ensures that every member of staff contributes to success. Equally remarkable is academic advancement achieved under his watch. During his tenure, 13 members of staff were elevated to the rank of professor. 16 members of staff were promoted to leaders, and many others advanced at different levels, strengthening the academic profile of our faculty. These milestones are not accidental. They are the fruits of a leader who values scholarship, nurtures talent, and creates growth opportunities. As Dean, I observed firsthand that Professor Ige never turned down requests from staff members to attend both local and international conferences, despite the limited funds available. I'm saying this because most times when requests came from colleagues, I often felt the Vice Chancellor may not be able to approve because of procedure of form. But at the end of the day, I will discover that when you ask for such a service, he has gone. I said, I will release form to this person. So, sir, I just want to appreciate you for being this to us. Thank you. You did this silently without even making loud words regarding that, sir. Thank you so much for helping our faculty to grow. So, if we need the capacity building and exposure to global best practices speaks volumes about his commitment to the development of individuals and institutions. He understood that the strength of the university lies not only in its structures, but the quality and confidence of its people. It is also important to recall that Professor Ige once served as Dean of the Faculty of Science between 2010 and 2011, during which remarkable achievements were recorded. The foundations he laid during that period have continued to serve as building blocks for successive administrations. His tenure as Dean was a testimony to his foresight and ability to inspire collective progress. And it is upon these foundations that others have continued to build. We must also appreciate his efforts in improving the infrastructure of the faculty. Among his many contributions, the Faculty of Science Glass House stands out as a signature of all minds. These facilities have not only enhanced teaching and research, but has also become a symbol of the faculty's commitment to excellence and innovation. Importantly, the Glass House accommodates members of staff, allowing them to be well prepared for academic matters. It is a visible reminder of his dedication to strengthening the faculty's capacity and ensuring that our students and staff have access to world-class resources. Yes, while we celebrate these achievements, we also acknowledge that the faculty still desires more. I'm saying this today because I know what the faculty is passing through. Most times when we hold our meetings, we always have a constricted area. It was not really accommodated to staff to have our meetings. So I just released this video. It's never too late to put this on record that we still need the space that can accommodate us as a faculty board. Thank you, sir. So, I say we look forward to the provision of additional office space and a bigger auditorium for staff meetings. These aspirations are part of the legacy of Professor Ige's tenure, which is a legacy that inspires us to dream bigger, to also to aim higher, and to continue building upon the solid foundations he has laid. Professor Ige's tenure also brought infrastructural growth and strengthening the faculty's foundation. Academic empowerment through research and innovation, mentorship that inspired young academics and students, global visibility that pursues our regular university and institutions of excellence. We sincerely appreciate you, sir, for celebrating excellence by recognizing and honoring distinguished academics in the faculty. His acknowledgement of their groundbreaking research findings and scholarly publications not only uplifts the recipients, but also inspires the academic community to strive for greater heights. I appreciate you on behalf of the Faculty of Science. You cherish people, most of our colleagues who publish regularly and are their top flyers. Each time you celebrate them, it inspires them to do more and also energizes them to do more. So we appreciate you for this. Most times we have people who may not actually recognize this, but you are just a different person. So on behalf of the faculty, I appreciate you for celebrating all this. Indeed, Professor Ige is a pride of the Faculty of Science. His tenure has shown us that leadership is not about personal gain, but also service, but about service, sacrifice, and building lasting foundations. The projects, promotions, and opportunities he championed will continue to bear fruit long after his tenure, serving as pillars for future generations. This celebration is therefore an opportunity for the Faculty of Science to appreciate him, to say thank you for his vision, thank you for sacrifices, sir, and thank you for the inclusiveness and your unwavering commitment to excellence. It is our own way of acknowledging that your story is our story, and your success is our success, and your legacy is our collective pride. Ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate a leader, a mentor, a ruler, and a son of the faculty whose story inspires us all. Let us rejoice together in the legacy of Professor Olugbenga and the man who has given us reasons to be proud, reasons to be united, and reasons to celebrate us. I welcome you all to this celebration and may it be a memorable tribute to the valuable source. Thank you, my friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you now understand why the Faculty of Science is first to hold this kind of valedictory event for the vices. Please appreciate the Dean of Science. This is honor from home. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the the many virtues that many of us have observed in the Vice Chancellor is the fact that he always acknowledges and celebrates his wife. Another thing is that Professor Ige always applauds men who celebrate their wives. Alright? Ladies and gentlemen, now join me to welcome to this event the wife of our Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Registrar in the Affairs Division, Mrs. Michelle Ige. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, it's time to take the lecture, which is titled Management Has a Few Things to Learn from Science. Like I said, it will be taken and delivered by the distinguished professor of plant physiology, Olugbenga. But to join me here to take the citation of the guest lecturer, please welcome Dr. Mrs. A.O. Additional. Where are you now? Those who are here, as I request the lecturer, Professor Olugbenga, to please climb up here, stand, and remain standing. Please put your hands together.
Standing on the existing protocol and presenting the profile of Professor Victor O. Olugbenga. Victor Olugbenga is a plant physiologist and an environmental scientist. He obtained a BSc in botany from the University of Benin in 1981, MSc in Prof. Physiology from the University of Ibadan, 1984, and PhD Biology, that's plant physiology from University of Essex, Manchester, UK in 1993. He later obtained another MSc in Ecology and Environmental Management from the Liverpool Old University, Liverpool, UK in 2006. Professor Olugbenga is a Commonwealth scholar and a recipient of a number of fellowships and awards, an indication of his scholarship. He has authored several journal and technical publications in plant physiology, environmental science, sustainable development and natural plant products. Professor Olugbenga started his academic career as a research officer at the Nigerian Institute for Oil Palm Research, that's NIFOR, Benin City in 1982, and crossed over to the Ondo State University, Abeokuta, as an assistant lecturer in 1987. He has been a professor of plant physiology at the Ajashi University, Akoko, since 2011, and has served the university in various capacities. He caught his management things as the pioneer director of pre-degree program from 2000 to 2003, pioneer director of the Center for Diploma and Pre-Degree Studies from 2003 to 2004, and director of the Center for Entrepreneurship Development from 2010 to 2012. Professor Olugbenga has served on 2 occasions as a member of the Governing Council of Adekunle Ajasin University 2000 to 2004, 2012 to 2016. He has also served in various capacities outside the university system. He is passionate about the environment, and he is currently a senior consultant to the Center for Ecological and Community Development, an NGO instituting several conservation programs in the Niger Delta of Nigeria, as well as the Access Business to Akure, where is a regular part-time faculty. Professor Olugbenga is a member of several international and local professional bodies, including the Institute of Sustainable and Environmental Professionals, formerly Institute of Management and Assessments, where is a practitioner member. He is a member with Science Society of Nigeria, member Agricultural Society of Nigeria, member Botanical Society of Nigeria, associate member Nigeria Institute of Management, member Horticultural Society of Nigeria, fellow Society of Educational Administrators of Nigeria, and a fellow African Academics Network. Professor Olugbenga is a community man who has engaged widely in community development, and he has conscientiously worked with several government agencies focusing on promoting education, agriculture, and sustainable development. Please, let's celebrate Professor Olugbenga.
Usually when I'm on the phone like this, I always want to say praise the Lord. I have to say praise the Lord. I want to skip most of the protocol because of our time. But then I recognize the presence of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga, whom we are honoring today, and the Chairman, Dr. Akindele, who happened to be my student in Nairobi. The registrar, Professor Olugbenga, my dean, who also was my student in Nairobi. See, I only have 2 more years. So,
Tell them that I was also your junior.
yeah, no, it's good. You see, this is academics, and I enjoy being an academic. There's no swing, no trouble. Actually, I actually consider this lecture as my valedictory lecture, but I needed to honor my friend, my colleague, because of the fact that he's made a mark in this university. So it's supposed to be my program. I know people who still argue whether university or what I mean. Rest of the fact that only professors give a different. Now, there is a preamble to what I want to say. It's important for us to look up at the scientists. Who is the scientist? How does the scientist work? How does the scientist utilize the training he has got within the community? How introduce the careful arrangement of praise so that it shines most brilliantly in the lives of the departing leaders tenure. I did not come today to perform that tradition. I come rather as one who has been long enough in this institution to know the difference between what glitters and what endures, between the effusive declarations of public speech and the honest, sometimes uncomfortable assessment that actually advances us as an academic community. I come as a scientist, I come as a philosopher, I come as an ordained pastor, people may not know, who understands that the publications of truthful speech is not merely a professional course, it's a moral imperative. The scripture reminds us that account must be given not only for every word spoken, but every word deliberately withheld. You're very I do not wish to betray anyone, that's the English translation. Not by saying too little, not by saying too much, but by saying what is true. So whatever I say today, please go and mark it is what is true. What qualifies you for this honor? I am not necessarily member of particular science. I know that you want to share the department of plant science and biotechnology. I'm going to give you number 2. I know the doctorate which grants me the academic tradition and my right, the right of philosophizing. So I have a doctor of philosophy. So I can philosophize, but I know Professor Akin will not be having with me. I should hasten to clarify that in philosophy per se, but in plant physiology. The philosophy of science has seasoned me, and I can assure you, it's not less rigorous for the botanical way of the application. We have come a very long way from Odudu University to where we are in Bakoko. I have watched this institution from its tender days. I have sat in his chambers with this man whose tenure we celebrate today. I have seen him at his best. I have tested him at moments designed to reveal character. That is my qualification for standing before you. However, many might not be astounded to know, or many might be astounded to know, that our paths first crossed when he was admitted at the University of Benin as a Jambite to the Department of Biological Sciences in my final year in 1980 to 1981, where we learned under the same lecturers. That was just about 46 years ago. However, let me tell you a story. We formed a close bond in the department at Ado-Ekiti, and I know you will still recollect the positive role he played when I was to be skimmed out of the headship of our department in 1999 because of where I came from, because we were from Ondo State. The rest is history, which, however, needs to be relived. Professor Ige, then Mr. Ige, stood his ground, and I became the head of the department. Let me speak truth with warmth, with gratitude, and yes, with certitude of one who has examined the evidence and arrived at, after proper scientific methodology, at an unambiguous conclusion. Unfortunately, there are those who are yes men who are unable to express the depths of their souls. Yes, they can do so only behind his back, but I have the boldness of being able to speak whenever I am called upon. Now let's go to the nature of science and the claim on all disciplines. What is science and why does it matter to everyone? There is a reason we call certain fields natural sciences. It is not merely taxonomy, a convenient drawer into which biology, chemistry, physics, and their kin are filed. It's a philosophical assertion that nature itself is the primary teacher, and that those who will understand the world must first sit at her feet with humility and rigor. To live in nature and to gain a proper understanding of it, one must deploy the laws of nature. These are not laws that were invented by committees. They were not passed by legislative assemblies. They were not subject to popular vote or political convenience. They were discovered painstakingly, often at great personal cost, by men and women who dared to observe, hypothesize, test, and report honestly. The chemists, Oladi and Co., and their colleagues will illuminate how atoms combine to form the material reality we inhabit. Even our departed colleague, the blessed Olugbenga, reminded us beautifully that chemistry functions on earth and where? In heaven. And understanding that at the atomic and molecular level, the universe obeys laws of extraordinary precision. Abadigi, whose problem is that he used to write all manners of equations that I never understood, and Fayoshe, and their travelers in physics, will have us appreciate that the equations of the universe are mere abstractions, are not mere abstractions, but descriptions of actual physical reality. The mathematicians will remind us that logic itself has a genesis, a grammar, a discipline. The Olugbenga and his computer people, they gather information, they interpolate information, and they seek to make mankind useless, all in the name of artificial intelligence. And of course, the biologists, they are Kimumis, Ajayi is Olotuas, Badamosi, and so they trace the living thread from the first string of life to the extraordinary diversity of organisms. Whether micro or mega, which you observe today. Funnily, if I had to mention every professor in Faculty of Science, we would not live here today. You are all acknowledged for your disciplines. Need I say many of you were promoted during the administration of Olugbenga, who bucked the trend. Professorial appointments all over this university. To the glory of God, as Dean of Science, I led the crusade that opened the floodgates, and I have no regrets for what I did. Even the Bible, that ancient repository of wisdom, directs humanity to study the lesser creatures, the ants, the cronies, the bees, the sparrows, not as an exercise in sentimentality, but as a field deployment of biological and ecological intelligence. Go to the ants, thou sluggard, the scripture says. It's one of the oldest injunctions to empirical observations in human literature. The natural world is a laboratory, and those who refuse to enter it impoverish their understanding. In my 200-level zoology course, we were taught in animal behavior that the female spider is normally bigger than the male. And this presents a danger because if the male is not careful, it may end up in the stomach of the female as lunch. Hence, the male will normally present a gift to the female. While taking time to admire, he will get behind and do his job and quickly run away before the lady realizes it was just a wad of spider's web woven into a ball. Or the male praying mantis that must have the head beaten off in order to perform very well, because the muscular contractions that enable sexual intercourse are better expressed when the head is cut off. So the woman will cut the man's head off, and that will be the end. That is science at its peak, and that's nature. The pertinent question, the question that animates this lecture, is that what happens when the principles of science, particularly biology, are applied to the governance of human institutions? What does the natural order have to teach the university administration, the vice chancellor, the faculty dean, and the departmental head? My contention, argued across the pages of this lecture, is that the answer is a great deal, and that Professor Olugbenga, whether consciously or instinctively, has governed this institution in ways that reflect the deepest principles of natural sciences, with consequences that have been, and by and large, admirable. the question of Malthus and the governance of human population. Thomas Robert Malthus, writing at the close of the 18th century, drew from the biological observation of population dynamics to construct his famous theory of human population and resource limits. His ideas on division of labor and the carrying capacity of societies on the dynamics of growth and scarcity. These were not mere economic ideas. They were ecological ideas, borrowed from nature and applied to human affairs. Where did Malthus get his ideas? He got them from observing the natural world with the eyes of a scientist. The economists will not agree. This is not a trivial observation. It tells us something important, that the disciplines which appear most abstract, most removed from the laboratory bench, economics, management, public administration, linguistics, education, are at their roots empirical enterprises. And that's why I want to suggest at the end of this lecture, we should ask anybody who is going to do Yoruba to also have a credit in physics. You see, nobody is answering. Because that's the natural world. The equations of nature, they are the ones that determine the nature of the human being. This is not a trivial observation. The great failure of modern management theory, particularly as practiced in our universities, is that it has forgotten its biological roots. It has substituted sentiment for data, personal loyalty for merit, inbreeding for diversity, and the preservation of comfortable mediocrity for the rigorous selection of excellence. It has, in the language of my discipline, deployed bad planting materials and expected a good harvest. What happens when you plant poor seed? The answer is not always immediately visible. The seedling may germinate. It may even grow for a season, appearing healthy to the untrained eye. But when the condition turns hard, when the rains fall and the pests come, when the competition intensifies, the quality of the genetic material asserts itself with ruthless clarity. Bad planting materials cannot sustain a good crop. And the bad human material, improperly selected, improperly trained, improperly deployed, cannot sustain a good institution. There are 6 scientific principles that university management must adopt. I have them here. Natural selection for breeding purposes is a principle of science. The first principle that management must learn from science is natural selection. In the plant sciences, we understand that the survival and flourishing of any species depends upon the operation of selection pressures that favor organisms that are best adapted to the environment. The weak perish, the strong reproduce, the population is gradually refined. That is not cruelty. It is the mechanism by which nature sustains quality over time. Applied to the university, natural selection means that appointments, promotions, and appointments to positions of authority must be governed by merit, rigorously assessed, honestly evaluated, and transparently awarded. It means that the selection of who teaches our students, who sits on our senate, who leads our department, must be conducted with the same care that a plant breeder exercises in choosing parent lines for a cross. The stakes are identical. The quality of the next generation depends entirely on the quality of what we select today. This principle was not always honored in Nigerian universities. The history of our institution is marked in places by the operation of the selection pressures that had nothing to do with academic merit, pressures of ethnicity, patronage, personal loyalty, financial inducement. The consequences of these are not merely institutional, they are generational. Each wave of poorly selected academics produces a subsequent generation of students who have been taught badly, supervised inadequately, and initiated into a culture of mediocrity that they then perpetuate. It is a biological inheritance of the worst kind. In my plant pathology class, I was taught that there are 2 types of parasites, the obligates and the facultatives. The obligates are those which have nowhere to go and cannot survive in any other environment except a specific host, while the facultatives are all comers who have the qualifications to become effective parasites, and we are never really designed for the hosts they infect. Hence, their virulence as a success is limited. In this occasion, the infective agent is the academic and the host is the university system. This may look like irony. Yes, it may be argued that parasites ultimately kill the host, but I have only borrowed this allegory to show that there are those who obligated are meant for the university system, hence are passionate in defending the ethos in all their deliverables. Apologies to those who, for lack of understanding of my motives, may want to scrutinize this assertion further. Why did I say this? There are those who are supposed to be in the university, and there are those who are supposed to be elsewhere. But when those who are supposed to be elsewhere now find themselves in the university, there we have our problems. The selection process must be protected. The standards must be defended, even when it is socially uncomfortable to do so, even when powerful interests push back, even when the individual being evaluated is connected to someone who holds influence. The scientific community does not award doctorates on the basis of who your father knows. It awards them on the basis of the work. Unfortunately, this culture, this system on the primacy of work, is what every vice chancellor has the greatest headache in defending with passion, especially when he has to run to Olugbenga every month. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the days of swallowing codeine and more potent, which is more potent than Panadol, are coming to an end, and you can rest free of the induced headaches of university administration and, of course, from the shenanigans of those who should really not be in the university, whether as academics or as administrators. Variability from indigenous populations. The second principle is variability. In plant breeding, we understand that genetic diversity is not a problem to be solved, but a resource to be cherished. The strength of any population lies not in its uniformity, but in its range. A monoculture, however impressive it may appear in its uniformity, is catastrophically vulnerable. One pathogen, one change in climate, one new pest, the entire crop is destroyed, precisely because every plant carries the same susceptibilities. For universities, this translates to an imperative for intellectual diversity. A university that houses only one school of thought, only one methodology, only one ideological orientation is a monoculture. It may appear strong. Its uniformity may even be mistaken for cohesion, but it is fatally vulnerable to intellectual challenge because it has no internal diversity from which to generate a defense. I have also said that we should expect the good, the bad, and the ugly, or better put, the cool heads, the hot heads, and the often headless. That was a story that I will just relate to you. In 2000 or 2001, we're holding interviews for lecturers to the Faculty of Science, and there's one particular person now who is a professor. I won't mention his name. And at the point of the interview, he said, no, this one talks too much, he will fight too much, he's whatever it is. And he was always going to be denied this job because, and I said, sorry, this is an academic environment. We need diversity of opinion. I know people who cannot fight, people who will always fight, people who will sit down, people who will stand up, people who will... In fact, I know all manners of heads. So when we come together, we form a better soup, and the soup becomes very well done. The tradition of the sabbatical, that honored academic practice, in which a scholar leaves their home institution for an extended period of study, research, or collaboration elsewhere, is precisely an anti-inbreeding mechanism. It injects fresh genetic material, metaphorically speaking, into an institution's intellectual population. It brings new technologies, new perspectives, new collaborations. The institution that neglects the sabbatical or that treats it as a reward to be dispensed rather than a necessity to be honored is an institution that is slowly inbreeding itself into intellectual sterility. I'm not aware of anyone who has been denied a sabbatical leave during the tenure of Olugbenga. In fact, due to his magnanimity, I am supposed to be cooling my head right now in the University of Fortune, Ibotako. for the next 12 months on my sabbatical. Of course, courtesy of my Vice Chancellor, we have had the full benefit of a rich array of academics from other universities, and when you get to Senate, you see what I'm saying. Several people from FUTA, from all managers, we sit down and we talk, and then we generate fresh ideas. Not just the ideas of Akumba alone, but ideas from all manners of places. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice. Professor Ige, in his tenure, understood the importance of this diversity and the imperative of knowledge exchange. The marked increase in inaugural lectures in his 6.5 years, the institution surpassed what had been achieved in the preceding 15. It is not merely a numerical achievement. At the last count, over 50 of such have been delivered. It is evidence of a deliberate cultivation of intellectual variability. Each honorable lecture represents a scholar who has been encouraged, supported, and challenged to articulate the unique contribution of their research to human knowledge. Each lecture is a gene in the dictionary pool, a new allele of understanding introduced into the academic population of Valedictory University. Of course, there is no gainsaying the fact that we have had the excellent, the good, the bad, and not so ugly. The danger of inbreeding, that's the virtue of consultation. The third principle is the control of inbreeding. In genetics, inbreeding depression is a well-documented phenomenon. Even Yoruba people, they know what it is. When closely related individuals reproduce, they often carry the elevated likelihood of expressing deleterious recessive traits. The population loses vigor. Its capacity to adapt diminishes. Its long-term viability is compromised. In institutional governance, inbreeding manifests as a tendency to appoint only those who think as the leader thinks, to promote only those who agree with the prevailing authority, to exclude from decision-making all voices that might offer inconvenient counter-arguments. It is a governance equivalent of self-pollination, and it produces exactly the same result. I have sat with Professor Olugbenga in many difficult conversations. I have on more than one occasion approached him with a candid assessment that what are we proposing? Oh, sorry, what we are supposed to do is not what we imposed. And his response was never to dismiss, never to retaliate, never to reach for the instruments of authority to silence the dissenting voice. His response was always the Socratic one. Why did you say so? Tell me your reasoning. And we will reason together. This is not a small thing. This is, in fact, one of the rarest and most precious qualities of any leader. Genuine willingness to be persuaded. The man who holds strong opinions but holds them loosely, enough to revise them in the face of better evidence, is a scientist, whether he calls himself one or not. Somebody mentioned this time, he said Professor G is very strong in his convictions. But those strong convictions never come until he has consulted and made up his mind where he wants to go. Professor Ige is a scientist, a botanist by training, a paleontologist by practice, and he brought the epistemological humility of science into the governance of this institution. He will hear you out, he will weigh your argument, and then he will decide. And the decision was most often one that you will recognize as having incorporated your own perspective. Even if it did not mirror it exactly, at least you will have been satisfied that you have been given an ear. This is consultation as science practices it. The gathering of data from multiple sources, the weighing of evidence, the willingness to revise the hypothesis when the data demands it. How different, how tragically different is this from the style of governance in which the leader has always decided before the constitution begins, in which the constitution is a performance of listening rather than its substance. The next one is modification of growth and development. The fourth principle is a deliberate modification of growth and development in plant science. This does not mean overriding nature. It means understanding nature's mechanisms deeply enough to guide them productively. We deploy growth regulators. We manage soil chemistry. We control light water regimes, and not to impose an alien will upon the plant, but to create the conditions under which the plant's own genetic potential can be fully expressed. Universities require the same thoughtful management of growth conditions. The question is, for the Vice Chancellor is not merely what do I do with this institution to become, but what does this institution have the genetic potential to become, and how do I create the conditions that will allow the potential to be expressed. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the fact that the Senate chamber has proved too small for the community it is now asked to accommodate is evidence of a Vice Chancellor who managed growth deliberately and ambitiously. Now we struggle for space. I said it. If I don't get there early, Professor Fayose will take my place, and I will have no place to sit down. And the Vice Chancellor will not be able to recognize where I will be sitting. But before, at most, maybe 5, 6, 7 professors in Chile. Now we have almost 200 professors. That's a credit. But infrastructure is merely the physical expression of institutional growth. The deeper growth, the growth in human capacity, in academic culture, is in research output, in the confidence of the professorate to claim their place in the national and international conversation. This is the growth that matters most. And it is the growth that is hardest to measure and hardest to achieve. This surely must be our direction since we have come of age as a university. At least the ground has been prepared, and we have no less than 150 professors, whereas we used to depend on what I used to refer to as accreditation professors at the time in the past, even when assistant lecturers used to be heads of the department. It is therefore no accident that the battle for AUA's institutional accreditation and academic recognition was prosecuted with particular vigor during this period. We knew the season had come when the university needed to stamp its own views from its indigenous professors. We needed to prove, not merely assert, that we were not less qualified than those at older, better funded institutions. We struggled, we nearly lost. Fate intervened, and the AAA project was achieved. Amen? That achievement did not happen in a vacuum. It happened because it existed that refused to acquiesce in the face of setback, that understood that the organism properly nurtured would flourish. The next one is fertilization. That's the reproduction of excellence. The fifth principle concerns sexual reproduction, specifically the fertilization of gametes that produce new organisms carrying genetic material from two distinct parents. In the academic context, this speaks to the reproduction of excellence, deliberate process by which knowledge is transmitted from one generation to the next, not merely preserved, but transformed and enhanced through the creative encounter between what was known and what is discovered. Next one is integrated pest management, the handling of disease and disruption. The sixth and final principle I draw from the life sciences is integrated pest management, the sophisticated multi-pronged approach to the control of organisms. When I say organisms, what I mean? That threaten crop health, developed in response to the manifest failures of monoculture, approaches that relied on a single heavy application of chemical pesticides. Each pest management was crude, or early pest management was crude. Identify the pest and apply chemical, eliminate the threat, and that was all. The pest adapted, the chemicals circulated in the environment with devastating consequences. And in the monocultures produced, or proved as vulnerable to the next pest as they had been to the first. Now we go on. Universities are not immune to institutional pests. They face the constant threat of academic fraud, the submission of plagiarized work, fabrication of data, the inflation of qualifications. They face the politics of patronage that threaten to override merit-based selection. They face the intellectual diseases of dogmatism, of analytical insularity, and of the refusal to engage with evidence that contradicts established orthodoxy. And they face, perhaps most insidiously, the disease of what I would call institutional senescence, the tendency of organizations as they age to become more concerned with their own perpetuation than with their original mission. Let's go to the AOUA project. Now let's see how science is applied to national building. Mr. Vice Chancellor, starting every institution, like every crop, begins with the planting materials. AAUA was not born into easy conditions. We all know that. It was established in a small town in Ondo State, away from the petroleum advantages that attend the great federal universities, without the endowments that characterize the older generations of state universities, and with the burden of having to prove against the skepticism of those who doubted whether a university in Akungba could be taken seriously. That it deserves its place in the landscape of Nigerian higher education. I was said when I was HOD in Ado-Ekiti, you people, you will fail and you come back. Until today, our files are still there, waiting for the National Archives to retrieve them. The question of planting materials or the quality of human inputs that the will deploy was therefore not an abstract question. It was existential. Get selection right, and the nation could flourish. Get it wrong, and no amount of physical structure, no quantity of government funding, no prestige of name could compensate. In his 6.5 years under Professor Olugbenga Vice Chancellorship, the tragedy changed decisively. The number of inaugural lecturers multiplied, like I said. Senate chamber, which had been more than adequate, became no longer sufficient. Our institution had grown, not merely in physical scale, but in intellectual confidence and academic ambition. Our planting materials have proven their quality. The conditions have been optimized. The germination had occurred. The growth was vigorous and visible. Now, I have a personal testimony. When the case of assigned lecturers were to be taken up in the Faculty of Science, we knew what we did in those days, 2000 and 2001. We went around all the universities to look for people who were about finishing their PhDs, and we got all of them. And to the glory of God, all of them are professors today. The AAUA question, are we less qualified? And that's a big question. There's a particular moment in the history of this institution that deserves careful reflection. The battle for our academic recognition, for the validation of our standards, for the right to be taken seriously by the bodies that govern higher education in Nigeria. This was not merely an administrative challenge. It was, at its heart, a question about worth. Are the scholars of AAUA less qualified than those of other institutions? I say we are no less qualified. What does it take for an institution to make this kind of case? It takes leadership that believes in the institution's worth, not merely as a matter of local loyalty or parochial pride, but on the basis of honest assessment. It takes a vice chancellor who has looked at his professors and seen in them real quality. Scholars who have published, who have supervised, who have contributed to the advancement of their disciplines, and who are therefore prepared to defend with conviction. Professor Ige's odyssey in management provided fuel for this defense. He bucked the trend and didn't disappoint us. At the height of the struggle in 2021, we wanted a homegrown professor as our vice chancellor, as our VC, let me put it. And when the struggle was nearly lost, when acquiescence seemed the easiest path, we did not acquiesce. He understood, as a scientist understands, that the truth of a matter is not determined by the opinion of the most powerful person in the room. It is determined by the evidence. And the evidence, carefully assembled and properly presented, eventually prevailed. Thank you, my Vice Chancellor. Our individual responsibility now is to live within that achievement and make our own mark. The AAUA project, the project of establishing this institution as a credible, research-active, standards-driven university, was not completed by the acquisition of accreditation. It continues in every lecture delivered, every paper submitted, every student supervised, every inaugural lecture given. The foundation has been laid. What we build upon it is our own responsibility. Now, we now have the issue of a culture of qualification and academic integrity. I would like to skip some things because of our time. Under Professor Ige's watch, the question of standards, the question of whether the professional appointment made at this institution could withstand external scrutiny was taken seriously. Some seeds of questionable quality escaped the selection process. Perhaps time, as the most rigorous of all experimental conditions, will tell. Those improperly selected seeds that escape the selection process will find difficulty in existing in the natural world of academics. The world in which papers must be published, students must be supervised, ideas must withstand peer review, and whether claims must be backed by genuine evidence. Unfortunately, the expenditure goes beyond, and such abilities are often unquantifiable, and these often escape the observation, inference, conclusion, route. Such men and women must go for practicals. Who doesn't know who doesn't know this mode, what in French we call mode employer of science? Yes, our deliverables in the third leg of our mandate, that's community engagement, will test them out. Yes, we see them even on campus when they make serious efforts to expose their vacuosity. The scientific committee has in this self-correcting mechanism. The market of ideas is ultimately Darwinian. What has genuine merit survived and reproduces? What it lacks is eventually exposed and eliminated. No amount of administrative protection can permanently shield a scholar who has nothing real to offer from the judgment of the discipline. And no amount of administrative obstruction can permanently suppress a scholar who has genuine contributions to make. Professor Ige's contribution to this culture of standards, imperfect as any human achievement must be, has been positive and excellent and very significant. Now let me go to the sixth one, the science of consultation. I want to speak now about something that cannot be measured by the standard instrument of institutional assessment. Something that does not appear in audit reports or accreditation documents. Something that will not show up in the metrics that administrators typically use to evaluate the Vice Chancellor's performance. I want to speak about character. Very, very important. Professor Olugbenga has the gift of knowing almost everybody in this institution by name. This is not a trivial matter. In a university of thousands of staff and tens of thousands of students, the Vice Chancellor who knows people by name is signaling something important, that he regards the individuals who constitute the institution as people, not positions. That the student sitting in lecture hall is not merely a statistic in an enrollment figure, but a human being whose name is worth remembering. That the junior staff member making her way across the campus is not invisible to the man at the top. This quality of personal recognition, of being seen, is profoundly motivating. It is also, from a scientific standpoint, excellent institutional design. An organization in which people feel seen and valued operates more effectively, generates more commitment, and maintains higher morale than the one in which people feel interchangeable. The biology of belonging is not merely sentiment, it's an adaptive feature of social organisms. Professor Ige's consolation was of a genuine kind. When I brought him my concerns, when I told him that a proposed course of action was not good, he didn't dismiss me, did not invoke authority, did not reach for the phone to call someone more politically inconvenient. He asked why, and he listened to the answer. And then he thought about it. Then he decided, and his decision incorporated what he had heard. This is how science works. This is how good governance works, and managers must learn from science. This is how a leader ends, rather than merely commands the confidence of those he leads. Paradoxically, some of us, his advisors, were insultingly labeled against boys, whereas we should rather labeled against elder brothers. Has he been perfect? Certainly no. Only Jesus was perfect, and I'm sure he cannot never claim to such perfection. On his humility and strength. Please hear me out. There's a paradox at the heart of genuine leadership, that the weak mistake for inconsistency. The strong leader must be humble. The man who has genuine confidence in his own judgment does not need to assert constantly, does not need to remind his subordinates of his authority. Does not need to surround himself with people whose primary qualification is their willingness to argue with him. The man who is secure in his identity can afford to be embarrassed by the respect of those who know him. Professor Ige used to embarrass me. I said this with full affection by referring to me publicly as his Oga, or at least someone who preceded him in the department. Many observers were puzzled by this. Why will a vice chancellor publicly refer to somebody of lower administrative rank? The answer is that he was not referring to rank. He was acknowledging formation. He was recognizing that the senior colleagues who preceded him in the department had a relationship with him that was prior to and deeper than the hierarchical relationship of their current profession. This is wisdom of a rare order. The leader who can acknowledge his formation, who can point to the people and experiences that shaped him without feeling diminished by acknowledgement, is a leader who has freed himself from the corrosive insecurity that destroys so many holders. He is strong and can be stubborn in his personal opinion and disposition, yet he does not blow with every wind. He knows where he came from, and he is not ashamed of it. Now, take friends at the Senate chamber. I want to say something that may be uncomfortable for some who are present today. Something that I believe must be said, not because it reflects poorly on Professor Ege, no, not him, but because it reflects on us, the academic community, and our responsibilities to the institutions we inhabit. We are losing an important academic tradition. I speak of the tradition of frank, honest engagement in governance forums. The Senate, the faculty board, departmental board meeting, the tradition by which academics who are trained to tell the truth and to follow evidence, wherever it leads, exercise the same intellectual courage in national governance as they exercise in their research. Too many of my colleagues have learned to deploy what I will call superfluous adjectives on the Senate platform, only phrases of endorsement and agreement that bear no relation to what the historian inside of them actually knows. The historian in botany is the absorptive structure of a parasitic plant. It is what the organism uses to draw nourishment from the host or the embryo from the seed. I use the term metaphorically to refer to what is real and absorptive and genuine in a person's understanding, as opposed to the decorative external flourishing that may or may not reflect that inner reality. Very often, the historian is bigger than the external fortifications. The inner knowing is deeper than the outer display. It is very repulsive to hear people say, my amiable VC, my first class VC, my elder VC, my wonderful VC, my excellent, and all manners of this, just to curry favor. Many of us seek to outdo the others by searching for adjectives that will make us look obedient, whereas it would have just been enough to say, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Unfortunately, I'm slowly approaching senescence, but if by a stroke of divine fortune I'm approaching to rule over an organization, I will forbid such unnecessary praises. For God's sake, we are in a university. Unfortunately, the leader is usually uncomfortable, but the desire not to injure people's emotions may make him or her look the other way. I watch closely with Olugbenga. He knows those who have destroyed this position. And when the need for frank talk comes, he never bothered to look their way. And that's the truth. The academic who knows that a proposed policy is wrong, but who rises in Senate to praise it because he or she believes the Vice Chancellor supports it, has betrayed not only the institution, but the tradition of honest inquiry that gives academic life its meaning. Scientists, I trust, do not fall into this responsibility to do not fail in their responsibility to tell truth to management. This is not arrogance. It is faithfulness. It is the fulfillment of the primary obligation of the intellectual to speak what is known, regardless of whether it is convenient. Professor Ige, on his part, created the conditions in which such honesty was possible. He did not punish dissent. He engaged it. He asked for his reasoning. He considered it seriously. This is not the portrait of every leader under whom academics have served in Nigeria, and his writing makes it more precious. Unfortunately, many have been too timid to recognize this and continue to demonstrate a lack of boldness to profess, even though they are professors. I refer to these as professors in nomenclature and not in structure, morphology, nor form and function. Now we're talking about his legacy. In the life sciences, legacy is not primarily a matter for what an academic has accomplished during his lifetime. It is a matter of what it passed on. The tree that falls in the forest leaves seeds. It may be injured. It may be decomposing. But the body enriches the soil for the next generation. Its canopy allowing new light to reach the forest floor and enabling previously suppressed seedlings to grow. The legacy of a living organism is measured not in life that was, but in the life that follows. What does Olugbenga leave behind? Let us assess this with the honest eye of a trained observer. Please hear me out. He leaves a physical institution that is larger, better equipped, more adequately housed than the one he received. Just like I mentioned about the signature and so on and so forth. Now we have an institution that's extended beyond the original concept. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor. He leaves behind a professorial community that has been challenged and encouraged to claim its place in the national and international academic conversation. The trajectory of inaugural lectures is not trivial. It represents the cultural shift and so on and so forth. Olugbenga leaves a record of qualified appointments that will be vindicated or otherwise by the test of academic time. The selection process he oversaw was not perfect. No selection ever is perfect, but it was better than what preceded it. And the standard established provides a benchmark against which future appointments will be measured. And I say with deep authority, at the time I was a student lecturer in this university, people who are my students as assistant lecturers were already professors in other universities. But here in Akumba, our hands were held and we were not moving, not because we were less qualified. The Julius Caesar problem in this inversion. I confess to a complicated relationship with literature. People will know. I was never his most devoted student. But certain passages encounter the curriculum of one's youth, have a way of lodging themselves in the memory and returning of moments of significance. The passage from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar that has been with me as I prepared this lecture is the famous observation. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is what? Money. The good is often interred in their bones. It is one of the more cynical observations in the Western literary canon. And like all good cynicism, it contains a genuine insight that human memory is selective, that the dramatic and negative tend to outlast the quiet and the positive, that the work of building, slow, incremental, often invisible, is harder to remember than the work of destroying. But I want to propose, on the basis of the evidence before me that I have presented today, that in the case of Professor Olugbenga, this formulation requires inversion. The good will not be interred in his bone. It will live after him. In the scholars he has nurtured, in the culture of concentration he has modeled, in the physical spaces his ambition has created, in the standards he has defended, in the national confidence he has cultivated, in the memories of every junior academic who was treated with dignity and respect by advisors who knew them by name. What remains? He's not living. Let that be clearly understood. Professor Ige will continue to occupy his office in the Department of Plant Science and Biotechnology. He will watch a manifestation of what he has done, whether good or bad, as I often said, with the engaged attention of a scientist who knows that observation does not end when the experiment concludes. He is stepping aside from the Vice Chancellorship. He will not vacate the institution for another 3 years. And when he does finally retire, he will not be as a man whose influence has evaporated. He will be as a senior scientist and elder statesman in this community, whose counsel will continue to be sought by those who have learned to value it. Here is a man, beneath the ceremonial robe where you're not wearing today. Beyond the vice chancellorial title,
who is a serious botanist and plant scientist, who has genuine contributions still to make to the understanding of the living world. That man was never absent during the theory, but he was necessarily constrained by the obligations of office. He is about to become considerably less constrained. I, for one, am looking forward to what emerges, to the research that will come later on. Now, a summary of lessons. Let me draw together the thread of this lecture into a set of propositions that I offer not only as a tribute to Professor Ige, but as a genuine contribution to the ongoing conversation about how universities and by extension all human institutions ought to be governed. First, management must learn from science that merit is the only defensible basis for selection. The plants that has selected for its genuine adaptive fitness will outperform over time the plant that was selected on any other basis. The same is true of the human beings we select to carry out our institutions. Second, management must learn from science that diversity is strength, but not weakness. Third, management must learn from science that inbreeding kills. Fourth, management must learn from science that growth must be managed, not merely celebrated. The plant that grows too rapidly depletes its resources and collapses under its own weight. And we in plant physiology will call that one lodging. The institution that expands physically without simultaneously strengthening its intellectual cultural foundations is building on sand. Growth must be balanced. Infrastructure with scholarship, expansion with depth, quantity with quality. Fifth, management must learn from science that legacy is biological. It is about what you pass on, not what you accumulate. The bachelor who leaves an institution with better planting materials than he found it, with a more confident professorate, with a more robust culture of scholarship, a higher standard of appointments and promotion, has done something that no number of buildings or awards can match. Sixth, management must learn from science that integrated complex problems require integrated complex responses. I go on. The grade. As a lecturer, I want to give my grade. I began this lecture by promising truthful words rather than kind words. I hope that in your judgment I have been faithful to that promise. I have not spared the institution the uncomfortable observations that it needs to hear. I have not pretended that the training has been without imperfection, because nothing human ever is perfect. I have not offered the kind of gaudy, unearned praise that degrades the speaker and ultimately diminishes the person praised. But I have been equally unwilling to withhold the honest assessment that the evidence demands. And the evidence examined with the eye of a scientist, weighed with the care of a philosopher, offered with the pastoral responsibility of a man of faith who believes that truth is the highest form of respect. The evidence says something clear and unambiguous. I remember our joint teacher at the University of Minnesota, Professor Fred Opute, a formidable botanist, who used to announce at the beginning of his botany course that since the inception of the university, no student had ever received an A in his course, and he was always boasting every year. Because he reserved that A grade for himself, he announced this as a point of pride. He announced it as a way to see what it would produce in his students. What did he produce? In at least one student was a quiet determination to prove the announcement wrong. The result came out. The A was awarded for the first time in the history of Uniben. It was only A in the class, and it was only A in the class, and yours truly broke the duck. And Professor Opute never made that statement again. Now, I invoke this memory not merely to share a pleasant anecdote for the early stages of an academic life. I invoke it because it establishes the standard against which I am about to grade Professor Olugbenga. An A grade is 70 and above, which therefore means that you may not have got it all right. It does not require perfection. It does not require the absence of error or the resolution of every difficulty or the perfect execution of every ambition. It requires performance that is genuinely and substantially above the median. Performance that demonstrates not merely competence but distinction. An A is awarded not to the person who attempted nothing difficult and accomplished everything he attempted. It is awarded to the person who attempted difficult things and accomplished most of them. who pursued ambitious goals and achieved the important ones, who made mistakes and corrected them, who led imperfectly but led with genuine commitment to the mission and genuine care of the people. After 6.5 years of observation, after countless Senate sessions, and informal conversation and moments of collaboration and moments of disagreement, after witnessing the building that has risen, and the scholars that have been encouraged, and the students that have been admitted, and the standards that have been defended, my assessment is hereby rendered. It is rendered without equivocation. It is rendered without the superfluous adjectives that I have already condemned. It is rendered with the honesty and relationship demands that the respect with the honesty that the relationship demands and the respect that the record deserves. Professor Olugbenga, you have managed this decision with wisdom, consultation, and courage. You have applied, whether you name them or not, the principles of good science to the governance of human affairs. You have nurtured planting materials, cultivated diversity, resisted inbreeding, managed growth, reproduced excellence, controlled as best as any that time the initial pests that threaten every institutional cell. The nursery you have raised will outlast your tenure. The culture you have molded will persist in the institution's memory. The scholars you have encouraged will carry your investment forward in ways that neither you nor they can fully foresee. Therefore, with full scientific confidence in my assessment, Professor Olugbenga, you got an A from me. Unlike the botany course that I alluded to, there is no irony in awarding it. You have earned it. The evidence says so. The record says so. This lecture delivered the honor and the service of the truth you always sought says so. Go well, Professor Olugbenga. The office of Vice Chancellor steps away from you, but the vocation of the scientist, the teacher, the builder of institutions, that remains. And your colleagues, your students, your successors are richer for it. We now have to talk to Adekunle University at Mbakoko, to the students in this lecture hall, the scholars in its laboratories, the administrators in offices, the incoming leadership that will inherit what has been. I address these final words. You have received from Professor Olugbenga an mission that is better than the one he received. This is not guaranteed. By a man who had no choice but to care about this place and about the people in it. You are the steward of that inheritance. The AAA project is not complete with it from Adekunle. It will never be complete in the sense of arriving at the final finished state. It shows like living organisms are either growing or declining. But in the direction of travel, that has been established. The culture of standards and consultation and intellectual ambition that has been cultivated, the confidence that this institution can compete with, that its professors are genuinely qualified, that its degrees mean something, this can be sustained. It can be deepened. It can become the unquestioned identity of this place. Management has a few things to learn from science, but those lessons are available. They are not esoteric. They do not require expensive consultants or foreign experts. They require only the willingness to observe the natural world honestly, to think clearly about what it teaches, and to govern accordingly. If we do this, we select for merit, cultivate diversity, resist inbreeding, manage growth wisely, reproduce excellence deliberately, and address our institutional diseases with integrated and sustained effort. Then, AAUA will be in another generation, not merely a credible institution, but a great one. That is the wager that Professor Olugbenga has placed on all of us, with his tenure, with his reputation, with the considerable labors of 6.5 years. I may have poured unusual encomiums on Professor Olugbenga. I'm sorry if some people do not agree with me. I offer my sincere apologies for those who would choose not to understand. I'm only reporting the analysis of variance of people's opinion at 95% confidence interval, which leaves room for perfection still. You might have 5% who will think otherwise, but you are only in the minority. Praise singing is not my character, but the Bible says, woe unto him who calls good evil, and to those who call evil good. I don't want to carry anybody's guilt. However, let me clearly and boldly state that Professor Olugbenga never did it alone. For a tree cannot make a forest, even if he produces all the seeds in this world. He is only been our leader. We all made AAUA what it is today, and let us not waste the chance to ensure its sustainability. Thank you.
Round of applause for the lecturer, Professor Olugbenga. For the lecturer, he protects well. Thank you very much. Shall we have our seat? Ladies and gentlemen, let me urge you to get a copy of this lecture. It reads more like a management manual than a lecture. Please put your hands together once again for Professor Olugbenga. He mentioned 6 scientific principles that university management must adopt. He also said that though Professor is stepping aside as the VC, but that the vocation of the scientist, teacher, and builder of the institution remains constant. He said the VC knows virtually every staff member by name. We all can attest to that. He also talked about the humility of the Vice Chancellor. I know for a fact that Oga uses N for most staff members, and that Yoruba men, we know the difference between N and O. That's a lot of difference. Finally, although he said that the A grade starts from 70%, but he has awarded 95% for Professor Olugbenga. About what he struck me, he said he talked about headache-inducing pressures from many quarters on the office of the Vice Chancellor. I'm sure that when he tried for the visit to make this remark, he would either affirm that aside or reject it. Thank you very much once again, Professor Olugbenga, for his job well done, his lecture well delivered, and for professing like a thorough professor. Thank you very much, sir. With that, let me welcome the university bossa who because of the lecture. Please welcome Dr. Toby Orina, FCA. Thank you very much, sir. I also recognize the presence of the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga Adebowale. Thank you very much, ma. I see you, ma. I also recognize the presence of the former Registrar, Dr. Thank you very much. Just as I recognize the presence of the Faculty of Science, Mr. Bayo Adare. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, it is time to invite the Dean of Science. It's time for the award. I invite the Dean of Science who will help us coordinate this session. Professor Olugbenga.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have about 4 awards here. I don't know if the other people are around, so I'm going to invite the chairman of this committee to please come to the top table here. We have 4 awards. The chairman, Professor Farisha, please come over here. Okay, thank you so much. Permit me to invite to the top table Dr. Simon Olaogun, who is going to make brief, set to force the citation on the Vice Chancellor before the awards. So please, Dr. Olaogun, come to the microphone. Thank you, sir. I want to stand on the existing protocol. But before I do the citation, I want to, I feel so honored and excited to read the citation of a transformational and distinguished Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga. The title of the citation is Professor Olugbenga E.E.A., a distinguished record in academia, administration, and service. Professor Olugbenga E.E.A. held a Bachelor of Science degree in botany from the University of Benin in 1984, a Master of Science and Doctorate of Philosophy both in Berkeley in 1993 and 2004, respectively from Nigeria Premier University, the best and the first University of Ibadan. Professor E.E.A. began his teaching career from the then Ondo State University at Ekiti as a graduate assistant in December 1990. And rose steadily through the ranks to become a professor of palynology and paleontology in October 2011. He is currently a lecturer in the Department of Plant Science and Biotechnology at the University of Nigeria University. He has engaged in notably collaboration and research work in the following international academy and Institute of Learning, the Third World Academy of Science, Italy, the National Botanical Research Institute, India, the Government Board Technical University, India, and the Berliner Institute of Technology, Ranchi, India. He was a beneficiary of the International Research Grant of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi, India. He is a member, Botanical Society of Nigeria, member and former Vice President, Paleological Association of Nigeria, a fellow of Society of Ethnobotanists, India, a fellow Nigerian Consultation Foundation, and a member of the Association of Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria Universities. A widely traveled researcher, Professor Olugbenga has attended several conferences and workshops within and outside the country, notably the United Kingdom, USA, Singapore, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, India, Namibia, Switzerland, Republic of Benin, Senegal, and others. He is a prolific writer who has contributed to both local and international journals, and some of his publications have become splendid reference materials in the field of botany. A cerebral leader with infectious charisma, capacity and overwhelming educational experience, Professor E.E.A. has contributed uniquely to the administration and growth of tertiary education in the state through various leadership roles within the university system. He has chaired several committees central to the development of the university. His academic career includes but not limited to chairman, academic staff juniors of the university, ASU at the University of Ibadan branch between the year 2002 and 2006. Acting head of the Department of Plant Science and Biotechnology from 2005 to 2007. Acting Director of the Industrial Training Unit in 2009. Dean of Student Affairs from 2009 to 2010. Acting Director of the Academic Planning Unit in 2010. And acting Dean of the Faculty of Science from 2010 to 2011. He later served as Dean of the Postgraduate School in 2016. Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration from December 2016 to January 2020. And was appointed acting Vice Chancellor on 6 January 2020. He was subsequently appointed as the 6th Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan on 7 July 2021. His tenure as Vice Chancellor has witnessed tremendous growth in the expansions of the university academic programs and has been landmarked by the sustained excellence of its academic traditions. Through his visionary leadership, the university academic landscape has expanded, with the number of faculties increasing from 7 to 10. In addition to the long-standing faculties of agriculture, art, education, environmental design, and management, law, science, and social sciences,
The university now builds on the new Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, the Faculty of Allied Health Sciences, and the Faculty of Computing. Under its leadership, all academic programs have consistently secured full accreditation from the National University Commission. Furthermore, the university continues to produce confident, critical, and excellent students who embody the quality of its academic enterprise in line with the vision of its founding fathers. In pursuit of the university's rich academic culture, Professor E.A. has cultivated the university inaugural lecture series as a consistent academic engagement to showcase recent output to the public. From the 15th edition delivered in 2021, the series has now reached its 67th edition to be delivered to all, a testament to Professor E.A.'s commitment to this academic tradition. Similarly, under Professor Olugbenga leadership, 9 scholars from Valedictory Adjacent University were listed in the prestigious 2024 Exedia Stanford Global Ranking of Top Scientists. A notable accomplishment that reaffirms AU's distinguished position in the global academic and research community. A quintessential administrator, Professor with capacity to expand partnership, modernize culture, and maintain peace and stability at AU, even in challenging times. Establishes as an exemplary leader to provide institutional advancement. In this spirit, he has undoubtedly sustained as one of the leading state universities in Nigeria. Professor Ige is a multiple award-winning academic whose successes are consistently recognized through numerous prestigious accolades. His contribution to education has been particularly honored. He was named the Ondo State Pillar of Education by Hero Magazine in 2020 and acknowledged as a role model by Sunshine Stanford Magazine in 2021. Further affirming his stand, he received the Distinguished Star and Human Capital Development Award from the Nigeria Institute of Public Relations for Ondo State Chapter and was made Distinguished Educationist and Administrator of the year 2023 by the Nigerian Union of Journalists. His scientific research and publications have also earned significant acclaim, culminating in an award of excellence and the most outstanding science professor in Nigeria. The scientific impact was further recognized when the Web magazine named its institution the premier academic institution of the year. Beyond his engagement in university administration, Professor Olugbenga has made indelible marks in his commitment to community services as he was appointed the chairman of Ondo State Independent Electoral Commission in 2011 by Ondo State government for a 5-year tenure. In recognition of the services to humanity, he has received the Prof Humanitarian Excellence Award from the National Association of Students with Special Needs, a Meritorious Service Award from Ansarudin Society of Nigeria, and a Distinguished Personality Award from the Federal Road Safety Corps. His dedication to societal development was honored with an award of excellence from the Yoruba Parapol Youth Movement. Other notable recognition include an award of excellent service from the National Association of Universities, now Ondo Chapter, and the Nelson Mandela Leadership Award of Excellence and Integrity from the Southern Youth Forum. Most recently, he was ranked among the Nigerian 20 performing by Chancellor in the Time magazine ranking. I hope you give a lot of applause for that. Please permit me to present you Professor E. an illustrious son from Italy in the local government area of Ondo State. Married and blessed with children. He's a responsible and responsible father. Thank you. distinguished leadership and institutional transformation. To be presented by Professor Imon Ondo State Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology. Ably represented by Dr. This award is presented in honor of Professor Olugbenga for visionary leadership, the next is the presentation of the gift by the Faculty of Science to the Vice Chancellor.
Those are the faculties you successfully manage, proceed,
Next award goes to Professor Amos Bekeri Akibe, who is State Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, being represented by Dr. Adeleke. This is an award of distinguished service. This is an award of distinguished service and support for academic excellence to be presented by Professor Olugbenga.
And it's supposed to be anybody present our Dean. Anybody present our anybody present our
This award of distinguished service and support for academic excellence is presented to you, Professor Amos Bekeri Akibe, by the Faculty of Science. Congratulations.
The next award is to be presented to Dr. Adebayo Adekola Family.
Okay.
The Ondo State Deputy Chief of Staff to the governor.
Okay, it will be received on
It
ground
will be received on his behalf by Dr. Adeleke. This is an award of distinguished public service and leadership excellence to be presented by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga. To be presented by the next lecturer of the day, Professor Victor Olugbenga, and to be presented by the Dean of Science. This is the award of academic excellence and intellectual contribution.
Hello. Excellence. And intellectual appreciation by the Faculty of Science.
wishes to do its own. May I invite the representative of the association to please come forward? National Association of Science Students. Adekunle Ajasu University and Tobacco. They are followed by a doctor. Our staff will have been watching there. Okay, please.
They were taking more rights. So I have to tell them to also increase on the damn
God bless you. What's it back? Many of our guests have been back to Akure. It is time for Mr. Vice Chancellor, in whose honor this event is held, to speak and also affirm or reject whether there was any already inducing pressure in the office of the Vice Chancellor. Please put your hands together for the Vice Chancellor.
Thank you very much. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, Bursar, the University Librarian, the Dean of Science, and I particularly recognize my former boss, the former Vice Chancellor of Valedictory University, who appointed me as Deputy Vice Chancellor. In extension, paved the way for this appointment as the Vice Chancellor, who is here represented by the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Akindele. All other deans of faculties that are here, all heads of departments, Faculty of Science, and all the departments in the university, all distinguished professors, all members of staff of Academia University. Let me use this opportunity to appreciate and recognize the guest lecturer and erudite professor of plant theology.
What is this one here?
They announced for us at our hearing not only a professor of plant physiology, he's also a professor of arts. Because it's only somebody who is well versatile in arts that can deliver such a very profound lecture delivered today by Professor Victor Olugbenga. I have known him for a very long time, over 40-something years ago. He still remains the same person, brilliant, courageous, and always saying the truth. And thank you very much, sir, for all that you have said about us. On Wednesday, July 1, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I am to deliver my tenure report to Senate. I will just adopt this your paper. Because if you have gotten A You know, people learn it. So I will just take this paper to Senate and ask them and tell them that I'm adopting this paper. It is complete. And thank you so much. But he has said it. Professor Ige did not do it alone. All of us, collaborations, consultations, discussions has taken this university to where we are today. I want to use this opportunity to thank all of you. When the Dean of Science was reading his and then Professor Olugbenga also brought out his own address. And I said, are all of these things said about the same person, the same Olugbenga? I didn't know that I have done all of these that people are talking about. And so, let us thank God for His grace. Because you take the grace of God for a single person in collaboration with management, member of staff, and students to do and accomplish all of that have been read out. I want to thank you for your cooperation. I thank the Faculty of Science for starting the end of tenure activities. When the Faculty of Arts came to me about a week ago, and I was telling them, the Faculty of Arts, why are you coming at this point in time? And he told me, Adishebi Oyo Lahari. But today, actually, I want to show you Faculty of Science. I want to thank the entire faculty, member of staff, and students for all this dissertation. It is overwhelming, and I want to thank God for it. I want to invite all of you to all the other programs that have been lined up. On Wednesday, first day of the Thanksgiving in Akubabie. On Thursday, ASU Koloko. ASU from all over Nigeria will be coming to our university. The last time ASU came to this university in that their large numbers was in 2006 when we hosted the National Executive Council. But on Thursday, July 2nd, all over Nigeria, ASU will be coming to our university to celebrate our Vice Chancellor. Friday, in the afternoon, we have a football match between academic staff and non-academic staff. On Friday, in the morning, we have goodwill messages, gifts, and so on and so on for the Vice Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor's office. And then in the afternoon, we have students' race, fiesta, and then in the evening we have command performance by our Ajah University Theatre. I want to invite you all to all of these programs. I want to invite you all to all of these programs. I have done my best. That best may not be the best for some other people, but that is the best for me in the prevailing circumstances. And I want to thank the Faculty of Science, all members of staff of Ajah University, for standing by us, myself and my wife, for your prayers all the time. There's no way Balogun said whether what Professor Olugbenga said about prayer, whether it's correct or not. Ladies and gentlemen, it is real. It is real.
Hello?
Yes, it is real. You know, but we thank God. I have a wife that when I'm visibly hungry, when I'm under prayer, like Ras Kimono will say, I will just say, Daddy, How many people they say people see? And with that, I will just look at it. Actually, how many people put it? Maybe see it a day. So I thank you, Chief Mrs. For what God has to do in our life. I thank all management staff, Deputy Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian. We are a family. We discuss, we disagree, but at the end, we come up with solutions that will develop our university. And thank you today. Though I've been saying severally, ọjọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tí ìdí ọjọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tí ìdí kò dẹ̀ tí ìdí náà. Ní ọjọ́ tí ọ̀rọ̀ bá máa dé, ọlọ́run á bẹ̀rẹ̀ gbogbo wa sí o. I thank you all. And I leave you in the hands of God. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor. It's now time for the chairman closing remark as I invite the representative of the Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Akindele Ige. Thank you, sir.
Our indefatigable Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, please permit me to adopt the already established protocol. Let me thank the Almighty God for this day He has chosen. It is one thing to plan. It is another for the plan to become a reality. So I join the management of the Faculty of Science of this institution in returning the glory of the success of this program to the Almighty. I have to apologize to the members of the organizing committee, including the Vice Chancellor, for the absence of the Honorable Commissioner. In fact, I got the invitation to come here just 3 hours before I left Akure, which implies that the Honorable Commissioner had the intention to attend this program. They just told me on phone that I have to proceed to Akure. I didn't even ask him the program I will be attending. They said I should go to Akure. Yes. And if not, because of the invaluable effort of Mr. Vice Chancellor, he has contributed to the development of this great institution. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I am bold to say that I am proud of you. Based on what I have had, I am indeed proud of you. The Honorable Commissioner is proud of you in absentia, while the entire Ministry of Education is also proud of you. Over a decade ago, I got to know you when I represented the ministry at one of the council meetings. I sat by your side. Then. You were so humble. The way you related with me and other qualities which I discovered in you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, little did I realize then that I was sitting with a future Vice Chancellor of the university. When your name was announced, I felt elated. The entire Ministry of Education. But something struck my mind. And that is the song of that popular musician, which we call Doris Day. Qu'il sera, sera. That is, whatever will be, will be. So when your name was announced, we were very happy. And I am bold also to say that since your appointment, I have never been disappointed. I have attended council meetings. represent the Honorable Commissioner, not the present one. He has done one before the last one. My interaction with you, the way you have responded, even during your own tenure, you have coordinated the university very well. The achievements are there. The speaker spoke much about you. What else do I need to say? He has said everything wrong. And on this note, let me, on behalf of the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Science, Education, Science and Technology, be acknowledging your efforts and appreciating you, sir, for your contribution to the development of this great university, for your contribution to the development of education in Ondo State, and for your contribution to the development of humanity. It is only God that can compensate you. No amount of compensation can really take care of what you have done, the effort you have expended. We really appreciate you, sir. And it is my prayer, it is our prayer that whatever you are venturing into, that is after your living the family, you are going to prosper. And whatever door you knock, it's open for you. Any ground you dig, you are going to find water. Almighty God will continue to bless you and prosper you, prosper your family. And it is my advice, my family advisor, that please do not forsake the university, particularly the incoming Vice Chancellor. Whatever suggestion, whatever recommendation, please do give this to him so that it will be to the benefit of this great institution. So once again, on behalf of the Honorable Commissioner, I am saying congratulations. Congratulations to the Faculty of Science and congratulations to the entire university. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akinwumi, the Permanent Secretary, Representative of the Commissioner for Education and Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gradually crossing home. Before I invite the Chairman of the Organizing Committee to say thank you to all of us, please note that we all of you to please wait and join the Vice for the photo session. And the photo session will go in this order. The Vice Chancellor and his wife, with all principal officers and invited guests like the Chairman. Thereafter, the Vice Chancellor and his wife with all deans. Thereafter, with all professors present. Thereafter, with all heads of department, particularly the Faculty of Science present. Then staff of the Faculty of Science, students, and thereafter friends and well-wishers. Now it is time for Professor Fayose to come and say thank you to the people. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding. I'm not too sure there is a system protocol, but if there is standing on a system protocol, on behalf of the entire Faculty of Science, in particular our hard-working team, we want to say a very big thank you, a very big thank you to Professor Olugbenga for even accepting our request to hold this public lecture. Thank you, sir. And to the Honorable Commissioner and the Representative, thank you for honoring our invitation. I want to sincerely appreciate all heads of departments. And let me say this, this public lecture would not be possible if not the conclusion of the heads of department. As a matter of fact, the sponsor this program. Please let me know the hand of God. What we were thinking before, sir, was that this is not fully academic. But I want to, now why you planning that you want to see the dancing step of the Vice Chancellor here today? But no, that is not what we expected, sir. So let me be a little bit informal. We want to sincerely thank the student union president. I saw him recently here, Mr. President, if you will hearing all of that people are now president. On behalf of our faculty, we say thank you, and thank you. Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience, thank you for your understanding, and thank you for being with us. With that, we have come to the end of this end of tenure celebration in honor of Professor Olugbenga, the sixth substantive Vice Chancellor at the Valedictory University. Thank you. As I all of us to please rise for the university and the national anthem, respectively. Thank you so much for your patience. You may choose to remain in your seat. That is more than enough to go around. But if you are rich, you are fed and you are paid up. Please join the Vice Chancellor for the proposal. Thank you so much.